There was a man who never believed he was wasting time. He believed time was simply waiting for him. Every morning arrived quietly, and he treated it casually, as if mornings were unlimited and renewable. He often told himself that his life had not started yet, that this was only the preparation phase, that real effort would come later when he felt ready, clearer, stronger, more confident. Days passed without resistance. Weeks blended into months, and months quietly stacked into years. Nothing dramatic happened, no sudden disaster, no great failure, just a slow, unnoticed drift where intentions stayed intentions and plans never crossed the invisible line into action. He was not lazy in the traditional sense. He was busy thinking, busy planning, busy consuming ideas about change, but rarely touching the uncomfortable work of becoming someone different. At night, when distractions faded and silence became unavoidable, he felt a subtle pressure in his chest, a question without words, a quiet awareness that something important was being postponed. But each time he reassured himself that tomorrow would be different. Tomorrow became a familiar promise, comforting and deceptive, a soft excuse that required no effort to believe in. One evening, after another ordinary day that left no memory behind, he fell asleep with that same promise echoing in his mind. And in that sleep, he found himself standing in a place with no walls, no sky, no ground, only motion. Around him were countless clocks moving at different speeds, some rushing forward, some crawling, some frozen, all ticking loudly enough to make his thoughts feel small. From the center of that endless motion stepped a figure whose presence felt heavy and calm at the same time, a figure that did not smile or frown, did not rush or hesitate, but simply existed with quiet certainty. The figure spoke without raising its voice and said it was time. The land laughed nervously at first, assuming this was only imagination, but time continued speaking, explaining that imagination itself is shaped by how one spends their days. Time showed him scenes from his own life, not as dramatic failures, but moments he barely remembered, moments where he chose comfort over progress, delay over decision, silence over action. He watched himself waiting for motivation instead of discipline, clarity instead of courage, confidence instead of movement. Time explained that people often believe change begins with feeling different, but in reality, feeling different comes after acting differently. The man tried to argue that he was still early in his journey, that he had potential, that he only needed the right moment. Time responded calmly that potential expires silently when not exercised, and moments never announce themselves as right or perfect. Time then showed him another vision, not of success or failure, but of repetition, the same year replaying endlessly with minor variations, the same excuses refined into better words, the same dreams shrinking slightly each time they were postponed. The man felt a weight settle inside him, not fear, but recognition. He admitted that he was afraid of choosing the wrong path, afraid of being judged, afraid of discovering his limits. Time did not criticize this fear, but explained that fear does not disappear through waiting. It grows stronger when it is obeyed. Time said that those who appear confident are often just tired of being afraid and decide to move anyway. Then time offered no miracle, no shortcut, no transformation, only a simple condition, one honest day. A day without pretending, without waiting for inspiration, without comparing progress to others. A day where effort mattered more than outcome. Time said that life does not change in leaps, but in direction, and direction is chosen in moments so small they feel insignificant. When the man woke up, nothing around him had changed, but something within him had shifted. He did not feel powerful or fearless, but he felt responsible. He resisted the urge to delay the morning, resisted the habit of escaping into distraction, and began a task he had avoided for a long time, not perfectly, not confidently, but sincerely. Doubt appeared quickly, discomfort followed, mistakes happened, and the familiar voice urging him to stop returned. But this time, he continued, not because he felt strong, but because stopping felt dishonest. As the day progressed, he realized something subtle yet profound. The day did not become easier, but he became steadier. By the end of that day, he had not transformed his life, but he had broken a pattern, and breaking a pattern felt more powerful than any motivation he had ever consumed. He understood then that time had never been against him, nor had it ever been waiting for him. It had simply been responding to how he treated it. He realized that tomorrow does not owe anyone opportunity, and yesterday no longer holds responsibility. Only today remains negotiable. From that moment forward, he stopped asking time for permission and started meeting it with intention. He learned that progress does not announce itself loudly, that consistency feels boring before it feels meaningful, and that small, disciplined actions quietly build a life, while excuses slowly dismantle one. Time never returned to speak again, but its message echoed in every choice he made afterward, reminding him that life is not measured by how much time is available, but by how much of it is respected. And so his story did not end with sudden success or instant clarity, but with something far more powerful: momentum. Because once a person learns to act without waiting, time stops being a threat and becomes an ally, moving forward relentlessly, carrying those who move with it and leaving behind those who insist on standing still. As time passed, the man began to notice something most people never stop long enough to see. Days feel long only when they are empty, and they feel short only when they are wasted. He realized that boredom was not the enemy he once believed it to be. Boredom was a signal, a quiet invitation to build something meaningful instead of escaping into distraction. He stopped chasing constant excitement and started respecting repetition, understanding that mastery is built in moments that feel ordinary and unimportant. Some days he made progress, other days he barely moved, but the difference now was that he no longer lied to himself about effort. He learned that honesty with oneself is heavier than motivation, but far more reliable. Time, though silent, remained present in every decision. In every moment he chose discipline over comfort, action over delay. He began to see how many people around him were not held back by lack of talent or opportunity, but by an unspoken agreement with procrastination, a belief that life would someday slow down and offer permission. He saw himself in them and understood how easy it is to confuse waiting with patience and fear with wisdom. Gradually, his relationship with failure changed. Failure no longer felt like proof of inadequacy, but like feedback, neutral and unemotional, pointing toward adjustment rather than retreat. He noticed that the more he acted, the quieter his internal doubts became, not because they disappeared, but because they lost authority. Confidence, he learned, is not built by thinking better thoughts, but by keeping promises to oneself, especially the small ones that no one else sees. He stopped measuring his life against imagined timelines and external comparisons, realizing that comparison steals focus while offering nothing in return. Instead, he measured progress in consistency, in showing up even when motivation was absent, in choosing effort when results were invisible. There were moments of exhaustion, moments where old habits tried to pull him back into comfort, moments where quitting felt logical and justified. But each time he remembered that stopping would only return him to the place he worked so hard to leave. Time taught him, without words, that discipline feels restrictive at first, but regret feels permanent. He began to understand that the present moment is not small or insignificant. It is the only place where direction can be altered. The future, once a distant abstraction, became something shaped daily, quietly, almost invisibly. He accepted that life does not reward intentions, it responds to behavior. Slowly, opportunities appeared, not suddenly or dramatically, but logically as a consequence of movement. People noticed reliability before brilliance, consistency before talent. He realized that respect is earned long before success arrives. As years unfolded, the man no longer feared time passing because he was no longer standing still. He understood that time does not judge, does not punish, does not favor. It simply advances, carrying forward whatever habits are placed within it. Those who plant excuses harvest regret, and those who plant effort harvest options. He learned that legacy is not built at the end of life, but shaped daily by what one chooses to prioritize. In quiet moments, he reflected on how close he once came to living an entire life in preparation mode, always getting ready, never beginning. That realization grounded him, keeping complacency at a distance. He no longer searched for motivation in external voices because he discovered that action itself generates motivation. The more he moved, the more energy appeared, not because the work became easier, but because resistance lost its grip. Time became less of a mystery and more of a mirror, reflecting his choices back to him with unwavering honesty. He understood that discipline is not about force, but about identity, about becoming the kind of person who acts regardless of mood. Eventually, he stopped asking whether he was too late and started asking whether he was present. He realized that starting late is irrelevant if one refuses to stop early. The weight of wasted years transformed into fuel, not shame, because shame immobilizes while responsibility empowers. He accepted that growth often feels slow because change happens beneath the surface long before it becomes visible. The man learned to trust the process, not because it was easy, but because quitting guaranteed nothing. Time, once perceived as an enemy slipping away, became a companion moving alongside him, steady and impartial. He understood that the cost of discipline is paid daily, but the cost of regret is paid forever. And so his life did not become extraordinary overnight, but it became intentional, and intention changed everything. He lived with awareness that every moment is either invested or spent, never saved, never returned. In that understanding, he found peace, not because life slowed down, but because he finally learned how to move with it.
As the man continued forward, he began to understand that time does not only shape results, it reshapes identity. The person who once waited for certainty slowly disappeared, replaced by someone who acted despite uncertainty. He noticed that discomfort no longer felt like a warning sign, but like evidence that growth was taking place. Each day he showed up, even imperfectly. Something inside him hardened in a good way, not emotionally cold, but mentally stable. He learned that discipline is not loud or dramatic. It is quiet, repetitive, and often invisible to others. There were days when progress felt meaningless, when effort produced no visible reward, when the temptation to return to old habits whispered convincingly, telling him that rest could easily become retreat. But he had learned something crucial. The voice that tells you to stop often sounds reasonable, logical, and caring, while the voice that tells you to continue often feels heavy and demanding. He chose to listen to the heavier voice. Over time, he realized that most people do not fail because they are incapable, but because they underestimate how long meaningful change actually takes. Society celebrates outcomes, but ignores process, and many give up not because they are weak, but because they expected results too soon. He stopped expecting linear progress and accepted plateaus as part of the journey. He learned that consistency during boring phases is what separates those who grow from those who restart endlessly. Time taught him that restarting feels productive, but continuing is what actually builds something. He also realized that the past cannot be fixed, but it can be redeemed through present action. Regret, when left unattended, becomes poison, but when converted into responsibility, it becomes fuel. He stopped apologizing to himself for lost years and started honoring them by refusing to lose more. Slowly, his days developed structure, not rigid or joyless, but intentional. He protected his focus, understanding that attention is one of the most expensive currencies time demands. He reduced noise, distanced himself from endless comparison, and learned to sit with silence without needing to escape it. In silence, clarity emerged, not as sudden insight, but as gradual understanding. He realized that purpose is not something discovered in a single moment, but something built through repeated alignment between values and actions. He stopped asking what life owed him and started asking what he was willing to give consistently. The world did not suddenly become fairer or easier, but his ability to navigate it improved. Failures still occurred, setbacks still arrived, but they no longer defined direction, only adjustment. He learned that resilience is not the absence of exhaustion, but the refusal to quit while exhausted. Time showed him that endurance compounds just like effort does. He also became aware of how fragile motivation truly is and how dangerous it can be to depend on it. Motivation comes and goes without warning, but systems remain. He built routines not to restrict freedom, but to protect it, understanding that unstructured time is often where dreams go to disappear. As years continued, the man noticed something unexpected: peace. Not the kind that comes from having everything figured out, but the kind that comes from knowing he was no longer betraying his own potential. He stopped fearing the future because he trusted his ability to face it, whatever it brought. He accepted that life would always contain uncertainty, but uncertainty loses power when met with preparation and effort. He no longer saw time as something slipping through his fingers, but as something flowing through his actions. He understood that time magnifies whatever it touches, excuses or effort, fear or courage. The realization humbled him. It reminded him that every ordinary day carries the same weight as the days people call important. He learned that there are no neutral days, only invested ones and wasted ones. Even rest became intentional, chosen for recovery, not avoidance. As he grew older, he stopped chasing urgency and embraced urgency's quieter sibling, consistency. He realized that urgency burns fast and fades quickly, but consistency builds slowly and lasts. Looking back, he saw how close he once came to living a life of almosts and laters, always preparing, never arriving. That awareness kept him grounded. Time, still silent, continued its steady movement, but now it moved with him, not past him. He no longer asked whether he had enough time left, because he was finally using the time he had. And in that use, he discovered the truth most people learn too late. Time does not demand perfection, only participation. It does not ask for certainty, only commitment. And those who commit daily, quietly, imperfectly, eventually find that life begins to move in their favor, not because time changed, but because they did.